Hey guys, Lex here again. I hope you are enjoying the current Path of Exile 2 League, or for some of you, the build that I made a video for about a week ago. I've already made some improvements to it since then, to be honest, so I'm considering doing one last build update just to see how crazy I can get the damage, the clear speed, and the tankiness before switching ascendancies or trying something new. But until then, I wanted to present you guys with this shield skills tips and tricks video. I made a similar one before that I called Advanced Tech for Shield Skills. Though that video is a bit older, it still has some relevant information when it comes to resonating shield and shield charge animation canceling, though Magma Barrier is totally different now compared to then, so I'd probably skip that portion of the video if you end up watching it, which I will link in the description box of this one. But anyways, enough introduction, let's get into it. I want to start very simply and very obviously with Raise Shield, and mostly by this I mean active block and how it has changed since the previous versions of the game. I think most of you know this by now, but I still get some questions on this from time to time even still, and I just wanted to lay it out very clearly here. Raise Shield and other active block abilities now block all hit attacks and effects. Obviously not damage over time effects and things like burning, poison, or bloody ground. Still have to watch out for those. But again, unless there's a red animation windup with that drum sound that plays, you'll be able to block it. This is super useful in, well, all contexts. Obviously during boss fights you can block so many moves now. I found this particularly useful against pinnacles like Arbiter, who has some heavy-hitting sword attacks in his second phase that you can just straight up block with no consequences if you have the stun threshold for it. Just be aware that there are certain moves that don't have the red animation drum sound windup that you still can't block. For instance, Arbiter's Beam. It wasn't clear to me if this was a damage over time move or something that hits, but it literally just inflicts a strong ignite on you, so no, you cannot block this. This new active block is also obviously very useful for crowded environments where you can block all sorts of after death effects, like corpse explosions or those elemental novas and things like this. And though you still have to face the direction you want to block for many attacks, I'm pretty sure you don't have to for these AoE explosion effects. This obviously was not the case before, and you could not block such things, and even some heavier attacks from enemies that didn't even look that crazy were unblockable, so overall, I am a huge fan of this change. Honestly, the third Edict update made active block so good that I don't even miss the old 75% maximum passive block cap, and my character isn't even that close to the current passive block cap either. Active block just feels stronger than before, and if you are using shield skills in your build, you should be active blocking often, whether it's, channeling resonating shield through a huge pack of mobs, or just timing a raised shield against a big boss swing in order to avoid the damage. Really worth it these days to just block more attacks. Just make sure you aren't getting heavy stunned. Next up is the new skill Fortifying Cry, which works similar to other war cries but just for shield skills, and it does some legitimately good damage. It's honestly my main way to clear and is a big portion of my boss killing damage with the shield wall combo, but if you've been using that combo, you may have noticed that the empowered skill counter that shows up after you shout with your war cries doesn't show up when you detonate your shield walls with this ability. Why is that? This is very much related to how this skill works and why I wanted to talk about it. I mentioned this in my last video, but in case you missed it, I will explain it again here briefly. Basically, Fortifying Cry, like Infernal Cry and Seismic Cry, will calculate the power of targets that it hits, which determines how many attacks that it will empower. And the power rating of each target is basically based on whether they are a white mob, magic mob, rare, or unique. Obviously with the uniques having the highest at 20 power. This is something we're all likely familiar with at this point, but Fortifying Cry does something a little weird with its empowered attacks, unlike the other standard war cries like Infernal Cry and Seismic Cry that directly empower the skills you perform. Fortifying Cry does not directly empower your shield skills. It instead creates its own attack called Shield Wave, which is created when you use shield skills like Shield Charge, Resonating Shield, Shield Wall, and even the Raise Shield Shield Bash. And that attached attack, the Shield Wave created from using your shield skills, is the thing that's considered the empowered attack, not necessarily the shield skill it is created from, which I think is important to note because if you're looking at damage numbers, you want to make sure that you are opening the tab for the shield wave damage when looking at Fortifying Cry, which is obviously what you should keep an eye on when you are, using modifiers that alter your empowered attack damage. Oh, and the interaction with Shield Wall. So what's going on here is this. you are at the same time stocking up those empowered shield waves like you do with other skills, but then immediately spending them all on each segment of the shield wall when you detonate it. So you are basically creating and using those shield waves by shouting and detonating the shield wall, rather than shouting and then using up those stacked up shield waves one by one with each resonating shield tick and shield charge. However, I've noticed a bit of weirdness when it comes to just how many empowered attacks are consumed with detonating shield wall in this way. It seems to consume between 7 to 10-ish, possibly more, empowered attacks from Fortifying Cry, but I'm not sure exactly what causes this variance. At first I thought it was if you happen to spawn a smaller shield wall, you know, like in a narrow hallway or something, it would consume less charges since there are less segments. Would seem to make sense. But I've had smaller shield walls consume all 10 as well, and bigger shield walls consume 7. I'm not really sure what's going on here. I might be missing something, but that is to say, using shield wall for your shield waves will hit even harder the more empowered attacks you have stocked up, as it seemingly uses them all up, and I don't think that the damage is lost. It's kinda hard to gauge, to be honest. This is probably more relevant to clearing situations rather than bossing, since you get 20 power from unique enemies, which is 4 attacks or 5 if you're using my build, and you're really only getting 10-ish plus empowered attacks stocked up in situations where there are a ton of mobs around you, you know, magic, rare, and otherwise. Either way, I want to test this a bit more since it is already a very strong interaction, but shield wall potentially gobbling up all of your empowered attacks is something that should be studied, I guess. If you guys have some more information, please share it in the comments, but this is definitely still a bit of a mystery to me. Alright, next up is Resonating Shield. This won't take too long. I just wanted to touch upon its role in the current, shield skills meta. And I also may have my mouse and keyboard inputs on display in some of these clips, not because I'm trying to show off or anything, but I just want you guys to get an idea of animation cancel timings as they relate to the actual animations themselves, at least, as fast as they are my character. So most of you know by now that Resonating Shield can be animation canceled for a much faster tick rate. I go over this in my previous video, but I will, show you here once again what that looks like. Essentially, you hold whatever hotkey you have it bound to down until it ticks for that first hit of the channel, then you stop pressing, and then you press again as quickly as you can to start the next channel. Simple as that, and this will obviously vary on your attack speed. However, just straight channeling Resonating Shield seems to be just as viable an option these days, since it is, once again, related to how strong active block is now. You can honestly just run into a pack and feel invulnerable as long as you are on the move. I think movement speed, and most importantly, movement speed penalty reduction while blocking, is super useful for this and will help a ton when clearing maps and just fighting in crowded situations generally. Essentially, you just want to make sure you keep it moving so that you're not standing in any damage over time ground effects, and keep an eye on that stun meter, because if it gets too full, you can just back off or use a shield charge. And real quick, I made a post about this on my channel already, but these reduced movement speed penalty while blocking nodes here feel really good, and it helps your clear speed out a ton when using Resonating Shield and Fortifying Cry. This is something I should have mentioned in my most recent build video, but I quickly traded some of my weapon set 1 points over to this when I realized how good they were, the weapon set 1 being my clearing set. There are also some runes that can help you with this as well, reduced movement speed penalty while using skills, but I mean, that's only if you decide against socketing them with just movement speed generally for some reason. But that's all I have to say about Resonating Shield for now. Let's move on to Shield Charge. Alright, I'll be honest, I was kind of hating on Shield Charge at first before the league dropped because they absolutely gutted the damage, which is still true. The damage is super mid now. I miss those days of 2 to 3 shotting pinnacle bosses with this thing, but we now have a lot of utility attached to the skill. Keep in mind, and I say this all the time, but for some reason, you do not build up your heavy stun meter while charging. I apologize if GGG catches wind somehow and changes this, but honestly, it's not even that overpowered. Basically, you just charge to get out of a tough situation when your stun meter is filling up, and you can block some attacks on the way, or you can roll and shield charge combo a bit to continue shooting off those shield waves from Fortifying Cry if you want to keep clearing. Even if it isn't quite as efficient as Resonating Shield, just until the stun meter empties. The big difference now, though, is it obviously has no cooldown, so with the right supports, this can actually be faster to travel around maps with compared to sprinting, as well as being safer since you both won't get knocked down when hit, but you are also blocking all hits from the front as you are charging, which is a super nice bonus. This feels really good and is a safe, speedy way to quickly cover some distance while traveling or fighting. I just recommend going with Rapid Attacks 3, which reduces the damage by 50% on Shield Charge, but again, I don't think the damage is what you are gunning for when you use this. And then Rage 3, which increases attack speed, which means it also speeds up the animation if you aren't fully capped on rage stacks. But what can make this work even better for speeding around the map, and honestly in combat as well, is the animation canceling you should be performing at the end of the shield charge animation to avoid that slowdown or collision animation if you don't hit a target or do hit a target, respectively. I've seen people mention they are off-put by this when shield charging or just playing warrior in general, since you have to roll to animation cancel, but I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be a roll. You can animation cancel with other abilities, namely resonating shield or even raise shield, which are both good options since those animations are so quick and easy to get out of. With a roll, you are obviously locked into the roll animation after you cancel the shield charge one. And honestly, it's still correct to roll in a lot of situations if you want to pivot directions or cancel the animation and move backwards or something. It's also one of the only moves that you can cancel shield charge with mid-charge. Most other abilities like resonating or raise shield can only cancel the ending slowdown and collision animations, not the actual charge. So basically, and this might be super granular, I acknowledge this, how I animation cancel when speeding around the map is with raise shield, since it is socketed with mobility and also doesn't cost life or mana like resonating does. But I do like resonating shield to cancel shield charges often in a fight because there's a bit of a wombo combo you can pull off if you have some shield waves stacked up from Fortifying Cry. You can charge into a group, hit them with the shield wave, then cancel the collision animation with resonating shield for another shield wave follow-up. It does take a bit of timing and practice, but honestly feels really good once you get this down and helps with clearing and mapping speed pretty significantly. Alright, last thing, I'm going to end it with a simple one. Again, a lot of you are asking me about this, but we're going to talk about weapon sets. You should probably know by now that you can have two separate weapon sets that you can not only equip things to, but also set passive skill tree points and skills to. What's relevant to us shield skill enjoyers is that often we just want a high armor shield with some decent defensive stats for our shield skills and character, and we don't necessarily want to buy or craft two good ones. So thankfully GGG added not only instant weapon swap, which is awesome, but also the ability to set one weapon, shield, focus, whatever, to both weapon sets, and I'll just show you real quick how to do that. Alright, so real quick, I'm just opening the character screen. You can see that I do not have my shield equipped for both weapon sets currently, and all you have to do is mouse over the current set that it is equipped to, and it shows you the hotkey you need to press to equip it to both weapon sets. You can see obviously here it is right mouse button, so I click it, and there we go. I'm using the shield for both weapon sets now. This is obviously super useful, especially if your build hinges on shield skill damage, because you don't need to use two high armor shields. I think more often than not, if you are a shield build, you really only need one, and I could be wrong here, but personally, I haven't felt the need for two different shields. Two different weapons makes sense. I have them socketed differently, one for damage against elites and bosses, and one for elemental damage against all mob types. Anyway, shorter video this time around, guys. I just wanted to address some common questions I see across my videos when it comes to playing a shield warrior or using shield skills generally. I wanted to make a response video to address them and explain how some of these things work, but also to create a discussion here in the comments like the last time I made a video like this. What other shield skills, tricks, or techniques have you guys been using this league? You know, I like sharing information like this, so I encourage you guys to leave some comments below about how we've been playing our shield warriors or whatever class you may be using these shield skills. I am super curious to hear about whatever y'all have come up with, but that's going to be it for this one, guys. I will see you in the next one.